Now we'll move on to the next session on trust security, for which I invite Mr. R.B. Srinivasa from NCCS. Mr. Srinivasa Kumar is an officer at the Indian Telecommunication Services. He has more than 25 years of industry experience in various telecommunication fields. Currently, he is working on security standards for IoT.
Thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to talk about the initiatives or measures taken by Government of India in ensuring the communication security in this country. So I'm representing the National Center for Communication Security, an entity under Department of Telecommunication, Government of India. We have been mandated to operationalize the telecommunication security in this country. So this is a brief agenda, what I'm going to talk about. So we all know that communication is one of the critical sectors that need to be secured for any country's economic well-being, prosperity, and the national security. So as early as in the year 2007, government has recognized the importance of telecommunication sector, and they did some POC with IISc Bangalore to establish or prove that the telecom security can be ensured. So once the POC was successful, in the year 2011, Government of India amended the license that's given to the telecommunication service providers to say that the licensee shall induct only those network elements which got tested as per relevant contemporary and international security standards. At that time, we were not there, and as a security agency, and we are not defined any security standards for that. Again, in the year 2007, to screen the to ensure the security at the OEM level, government has mandated something called MTCTE, mandatory testing and certification of telecommunication equipment, which means that any telecommunication product that is sold by the OEM has to be certified by government. So the MTCTE procedure was framed by the our sister wing telecommunication engineering center, and what they do is they make something called essential requirements, ER, and this essential requirement is nothing but a set of requirements against which the parameters of ER will be tested. There are 5 parameters: EMI, EMC, safety, technical requirements, and other requirements. These 4 are taken care by TEC, and our role is to take care of security requirements. So this is what depicted here. What we do is to ensure the security requirements, we prepare something called ITSAR, Indian Telecommunication Security Assurance Requirement, that has to be complied by the every OEM. So in order to operationalize that mandate, we have devised a scheme called ComSec scheme. So under this scheme, what we do is we develop country-specific security standards. So we develop the country-specific what is needed for the for our country. Of course, we are taking it from the international SDOs. The specifications of international SDOs to make it widely acceptability to make it acceptable to the OEMs, and we develop processes. These are part of our responsibility, and we have to develop testing and certification ecosystems. We have to designate a lab, then OEMs can go to that lab, get their product certified, and the test reports are sent to us, and we will evaluate. Based on that, we issue the certificate. So to ensure telecom requirements meet security assurance requirement, what it means is that the government can visit or inspect any premises to check whether the equipments are designed as per the security requirement, and to ensure compliance of regulatory requirements pertaining to security testing. So government can conduct some kind of compliance audit in the operating network to ensure that telecom security requirements are met. So these are just a depiction of what I have told earlier. So in order to, the NCCS, which I am representing, is responsible for the COMS scheme. And we are headquartered at Bangalore. So we have three different divisions. Each of its responsibilities clearly defined and well separated. So as I said earlier, the first division will prepare the something called ITSAR, that stands for Indian Telecommunication Security Assurance Requirement. The second division that has to take care of designating the labs. And the third one is will evaluate the reports generated by the lab and issue certification. So the COMSON scheme, it empowers us to prepare and publish various process documents and preparation of and publication of ITSARs. These ITSARs, we are adopting the consultative approach. So once we publish the ITSAR, draft ITSAR, we actually notify in our websites, TEC, DOT, and NCCS, and we invite comments from all the stakeholders. Based on the comments, we conduct something called stakeholders meet. We deliberate each and every point raised by the stakeholders, and then we take a call. Then is there any? It is not. It is not ending here. So we have an apex body called ITC. It's our technical committee. We will put forth the views of the operators. Where are the point of disagreement? Those things will be deliberated. There's a multi-departmental forum. So they will take a call, and once it is ITC meeting is over, it becomes the ITSAR standards. So the lab will be designated for a period of 3 years, and the product will be certified for a period of 5 years. So in between, renewal and modification of certificates is also possible. And in some inevitable situations, so we are issuing the temporary certificate also for a period of 1 year. Within that 1 year, the OEMs have to get certified of their product. So there are certain provisions in the COMS scheme how to resolve the disputes and surveillance to ensure compliance of scheme requirements. This is, as I said earlier, a government can inspect the facility of the OEMs. So for further information, please our website, visit our website https://nccs.gov.in. So this is what I told earlier, how to get security certification process. The applicants, they can visit our MTCT portal and they can choose the lab, TSTL lab. We call lab as a TSTL. Then the test will be conducted under the supervision of one of our officers from NCCS, and the test reports will be given to us, and we will evaluate those test reports and issue certificates. So far we have been established in the year 2018. So far we have come out with ITSAR of 26 elements, 11 of them from 5G, and CP related 5, and 6 from 4G, and miscellaneous 4. So total we have issued 26 ITSARs so far. But we have designated only one lab, that is for the Wi-Fi router and Wi-Fi and router. So these are the ITSARs in pipeline. We are we have tied up with various IITs to prepare ITSAR in this regard. These are upcoming ITSARs. And I said earlier, we have designated only one lab. We are in the process of designating 2 more. So since the topic is about IoT, I just wanted to tell you that the initiatives taken by us in ensuring the IoT security. So IoT security has got own challenges like weak password. We need to upgrade in a secure environment, and the insecure interfaces. And there's a shortage of skill gap in the industry, and the interoperability to be ensured. And above all, the device capability is very limited. So what we want is IoT ecosystem to be secured, protected, and regulated. IoT devices and applications have to be registered, and apart from that, service provider also to be registered. And the testing and certification of IoT devices, these are the some of the measures the government of India is going to take. As I said earlier, the endpoint need to be secured, and authentication has to be with secure authentication, 2FA, digital certificate based, and the X.509 PKI based digital certificate also we are proposing, and we are trying to ensure the API security also. So when the last this thing is that government is establishing. In fact, government has established. On the job of establishing the National Trust Center with the following objective that will serve to develop a national framework for regulation and establishment of trust in IoT M2M ecosystem. So the another objective is to design and develop a software platform which will enable a standardized way of information exchange between NTC, National Trust Center, and the siloed applications, and to create registries of IoT M2 devices, IoT service providers, IoT application service provider, and finally to integrate this thing with public infrastructure of Government of India, and of course integration with the MTCT portal also we are thinking. So these are the services that will be offered by the National Trust Center. So now we have taken our efforts to prepare ITSAR for the following 8 IoT devices: feedback device, tracking devices, smart energy meters, and smart camera. We have tied up with IIT Hyderabad to prepare ITSAR in this regard. So that's all. So is there any questions I can take?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Since NCCS is a body of Department of Telecommunication, and the TEC has already made 1M2M as a national standard,
yeah,
right? Would it not be prudent to consider the security specifications in TS 0003 and the further TRs to be considered as part of the security specifications and the test regimen? Because
yes,
we have.
Yeah. Actually, I would take into consideration the publications of 1M2M or TEC documents also. Apart from that, we add our own flavor, like the security, software code testing of IoT products, and vulnerability testing and fuzzing testing that we are into the basic requirement. So we are taking into consideration the TEC document also.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for the very elaborated presentation and also slides, especially the slides on IoT. I think they're quite interesting because my view, and we had also this coffee talk break about IoT, is actually most of the requirements you had on the IoT side is already covered by 1M2M specifications. So like mutual authentication, authorization, certification. So there's a certification also done by GCF, for example, for IoT devices based on 1M2M. So this would be certainly something which would you in your role would certainly make happy. So is this something you're going to recommend also? Because in this case, this would be something, security would be something you can, not entirely, but to a large extent, tick off.
Actually, in our ITSAR, there will be certain classes of the ITSAR that are mandatorily to be complied by the OEMs. Certain classes are recommended. So it's a mix of both. Yes.
So if I could just follow up with Andreas's question. One of the groups in 1M2M is the test and development ecosystem, and we create our conformance tests for 1M2M. That program has been adopted by GCF, and so they certify their labs in a similar process that you just described to us. Is that something that your organization would do as well? Define, be able to define for manufacturers who build IoT devices if you build a one end-to-end device and you pass those conformance tests, this is the set of requirements that we have that you're going to be able to meet.
Yes, yes, we are aware of the role of GCF in the certification arena. So what we insist is that we will designate labs, we call as TSTL. Those labs can only carry out the test and give the result to us. So we have got certain standards in accrediting the labs. So if when anyone is meeting that requirement, yes.
Now, will those labs be implementing the one end-to-end tests, or will they be defining new tests that you're specifying, or combination of both?
Come again, I am not getting it.
So when those test labs test IoT devices,
Okay.
let's say we have a one end-to-M device, a company that's built something that's specifically one end-to-M. Will you be looking for them to pass the one end-to-M conformance tests, or completely separate tests that you're defining generically?
We will be defining our own test requirement that we call as, we make ITSARs, India specific telecommunication security assurance requirement. So it will be India specific. Of course, we'll be referring to the various standards of international bodies.
Okay.
Over and above, we add some tests what we feel that it is required for the country.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Please.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so sorry for jumping into the row. So I think on the certification. So usually what one M2M is doing is also we are writing this test specification based on input requirements. So wouldn't it be also a possibility, for example, for you as an organization or for companies, let me say, being part of India and developing or producing products based on one M2M to issue, let me say, those tests also you require from your Indian specific view in the one M2M specifications. With this, GCF would already also certifying or testing and certifying also the compliance with your rules and your requirements. Wouldn't this be a good idea? Because then a device manufacturer would save multiple certifications.
Yeah, actually, the every IoT device, it has to comply with our own specifications. So it has to be tested only in India. I think you are referring to some kind of mutual recognition agreement. So once it is tested in other part of the world, then it's applicable to India. It's not like that. Security is specific to the country, and we will test the equipment against the ITSARs prepared by us.
Sir, basically, when you are talking about the security testing of any IoT devices, so you are going to basically test the software versions, right?
Yes.
And in IoT device, we used to see that very frequently software updates come. Now, when you are giving a certificate, it will going to give you on a basis of particular software version.
Yeah.
Now, if its software version get updated within a very well, let's say within 2 months or 3 months, and how we are going to protect that? How we are going to say that this software version is assured? Now you are taking, you are going to give a certificate based upon the software version. Now the end user, where the individual end user has been purchasing devices for the different part of the world.
Yeah.
Now how we are going to ensure that that particular version, if there is any rogue element or if there is something happened in the network, so how we are going to protect the IoT devices from coming into the network? The
certificate is issued against the, you rightly point out, the software version. But there is a provision in our ComSec scheme which says that if it is a minor update or minor upgrade, we have, they will be given 1 year period within which they have to get it certified. So if it is a major version change, it has to be, everything has to be done afresh. So it is your call. Yeah, it's your call. You know the product.
I'll answer your question. So first of all, one comment for you. See, from a security standpoint, it's kind of global.
Okay.
Right. So when we say it's our India specific security specifications. So when a device, say suppose because we are kind of expanding the 1M2M ecosystem in India, 1M2M being the national standard now, so devices and applications would come and they would be required to be tested.
Yeah.
And when they would be required to be tested, it is all the more prudent, not only prudent, but absolutely necessary to have the specifications which we have prescribed as part of our security specification framework, those test specifications which GCF has adopted to be adopted as part of the ITSAR scheme of test cases, right? So whether they are mandatory or they are optional, that is something that has to be taken care of. But I would recommend that NCCS should take into account those test cases also and make them a part of the test framework when it comes to 1M2M specific devices or 1M2M compliant devices, so that you certify them for 1M2M security compliances. And that is one part of it. You would like to comment on that? Then I will come back to
I have got
question.
certain reservation on this because as per the mandate, so it has to be complied with ITSAR. Anyhow, we will take input from you for that.
Fine. No, I'm saying we all three belong to DOT only.
Yeah.
And it is DOT's mandate to call 1M2M as a national standard. So it naturally comes to you to test that as well, right? So from that perspective, we are entwined. So we in the National Trust Center, like I'm spearheading that National Trust Center thing along with Mr. Sushil Kumar, who actually had been the chair for the National Trust Center documentation, the framework that we have established in TEC after a laborious 4 years of work, right, Sushil? 4 years of labor put in. In that, we are kind of, it's not formed up, but we had pondered upon this particular aspect that IoT devices would be required to have software updates very frequently. How to regulate those software updates, because nowadays IoT devices are seen as isolated private entities, not controlled by any regimen, unregulated aspects. We want to bring the entire ecosystem of IoT devices under a kind of regulated. I'm not saying don't consider that to be a licensed framework, but a regulated framework. And once we say that it is a regulated framework, all the software updates and updates by an OEM, because ultimately the software has to be provided by an OEM. So a trust factor, a trust relationship of that particular software version has to be maintained somewhere, either in the OEM's portal or wherever it is deemed fit. So once that is done and it is controlled through a platform, so whenever such a firmware update happens, either through FOTA or any other mechanism, the associated security certificate associated with that particular device, with that particular software, will then be revoked. So a new certification will come based on the trust flag of that particular software version, which is going to be implemented on that particular device. We are creating a framework and creating an ecosystem of that. Hopefully, this will solve the issues pertaining to that.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
But we have developed the ITSARs for the all network elements. The first time we are doing it for the IoT device. So we don't know much about the nitty-gritties of updating and upgrading, because network elements, because of this resource, there is no resource consent for them. So the update and upgrade is not, happening on that frequent level.
Thank you very much. I have one small comment but question. Is that when this framework of first time device testing, first time software testing, first time application testing is, say, registered in the trusted network and all that, there are two ways of doing it. Basically. One way is that there are periodic audits which take that whether software has changed, what has software has changed, and there is a some sort of a random audit when the new software version comes and all that. So some process of that has to be created somewhere. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Point taken. Anything else? Yes.
Sir, how would we control the selling of unauthorized or uncertified products in the market? Because India is a very big market. We can't regulate all the online and the offline channels. So if would be a mechanism for a end user to know whether this equipment has been certified? So would that be possible?
Yes, actually, we'll be publishing the the model and version number, the certificates, approved one in our website. And of course, the under COMSA scheme, government has got the power to inspect any of the installations. So, I really agree with you that it will be very difficult to implement.
Sir, I can add something on me. It's because I am from CDOT. So I know something about this, what is happening in TEC and DOT. I am working on the MTCT portals also and other things also. So in that case, Digi Telecom is coming up with some concepts. The scheme has been already approved that users can verify their equipment, because in MTCT, the list has been published what is the TEC certified. Similarly, it will be done for NCCS also.
Yes.
That it's are certified. And that logo has to be embedded in this the equipment. Yeah. So based upon that, you came to know that this device is the certified or not. And if it is not certified, there will be another provision to which you can raise the query, which will be DOT, the LSC unit going to ultimately verifying that the device is actually certified or not.
Thank you. Yes, I'm hearing.
In the meantime, I got my own mic. Thank you very much. I think this with uncertified devices in the market is a good point, and I think as long as there's no way to avoid uncertified devices in the market. We have the same with mobile devices, for example. You know, we also test mobile devices in our networks from connectivity point of view, but you cannot really restrict it. You know, unless there would be a mandate to force a specific standard. And with this one, force is not always good, but for example, with these uncertified devices, one M2M has already built in, for example, a functionality which is called the app ID. So with this one, you could remove rogue applications from accessing the platform or the one M2M system at all. So it would be exactly, so there's been a lot of security features already built in, naturally supported by one M2M, which you require, and which is often obviously also a problem in the markets and networks. So from this point of view, it's
we will take into consideration the 1M2M publications also.
Yeah. Let me give a comment. I think, and we have given advice to DOT also for this. The consumers should be made well aware. They should not purchase the products from the companies which are not mentioning that they will be they are having the vulnerability disclosure policies, and they will be providing software updates. If they are mentioning that for how many years they will be providing software updates, and they are having the vulnerability disclosure policy also, only those products should be purchased. And I think NCCS should give should publicize this in all your ITSAR and on your website, and should also write to DOT to bring it into the policy. We have already mentioned to DOT that this should be mandatory, made mandatory.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
I have one question, comment that there is already another initiative being taken for test and basically to have a test bed for the functional testing as well as interoperability.
Okay.
Security, as per normal practice, should be a part of the whole test for the IoT devices. Do you think that your organization will be willing to have a common platform for testing as a complete for the IoT devices.
Yes.
Will you be willing to
Yes, we can
join hands?
Participate, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But for a functional and interrupt test, you're doing it in the your what I call production environment.
Yes. We are, I mean, planning to set up a lab which will be certified under the ETSI and I mean the global agencies. So, will you be willing to join hands with us and do that?
Of course. In the country's security is important for you and for me and everyone.
Yeah. Thank you.
But where it's located, where it's to be?
It is in the discussion. We have some industry participation, some of the regulatory authority participation there.
Okay.
So with NABL accreditation, this lab, is being planned to be set up. So that's why we are very concerned about the security aspect also.
Yes.
So it will be good to have a common approach.
Yes. Yeah. It's good for both. Yeah.
Good for both. Yes.
They have tried to classify also devices. To classify the devices into different types, very critical devices, not so critical devices. So 4 or 5 classifications of those devices have come, which are mandatory, critical for critical communication. They come under different classification. They are just usual devices, and now they come under different classification. So this will also become very essential, that what is the classification of that device and how much impact it can have on the domain and in the stakeholding system in this. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Actually, when we are aware of the classification done by the TEC, L0 to L4, but they have done different 5 levels of classification, security classifications. In fact, the XR for one of the devices I mentioned here, feedback device, it's not deployed in the critical environment. So we will consider it in the what we call the less requirement for less security requirements for those equipments. So please keep visiting our website nccs.gov.in. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. May I now request Mr. Jason Seong, 1M2M TP Vice Chair, to kindly felicitate Mr. R.B. Sabha with a small memento as a token of our appreciation. Srinivasa. Thank you, sir.